Om Ajnanatimidandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Dhena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Thank you. That getting a garland is the epitome of coming here to New Dwarka. Be surrounded by the opulence of Shri Shri Rukmini Dwarkadish. Hare Krishna. So, yesterday, we were sitting in Prabhupada's garden and reading from the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And in the course of reading through one verse after another, I came across a verse and a statement by the Acharyas, one of our Acharyas, Jiva Goswami, that I thought was very practical and that I would pass on to all of you. I was thinking about it since I read that verse, and the topic is satisfaction. Satisfaction is an austerity of the mind. As many of you know who've read the 17th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna talks about various sets of austerities that you can perform. This is actually the advice that we're really looking for, because satisfaction, contrary to what is mostly taught in the material world, doesn't come from positioning oneself somehow or other to have a better surrounding, although sometimes that can help. It also isn't dependent on any other external circumstance, but it depends on one's internal state. And that's something that is the topic of yoga from the very beginning, and how that can be adjusted. And satisfaction comes actually from performing service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Today, when I was coming back from cooking in the kitchen, where all the devotees who were on our team cooking had a sense of unity in diversity. Everyone had their own duty to do in the cooking process, but we were all working towards the same goal, and we all felt fully connected to Lord Jagannath, because that was the only purpose for us cooking. And when I walked out from the kitchen and I looked down the block, I saw that everyone was doing the same thing. I've had the experience many times of leaving Vaisesika after a few days here, getting ready for Rath Yatra. Maybe you've had this experience also. And when driving down the street, observing that the material world's still going on, it's kind of a wonder, isn't it? There are various kinds of shops and people driving here and there. Normally, although I don't want to judge everybody in Los Angeles, for various activities that aren't focused on service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You think that's an accurate assessment to some degree?
Yes.
Okay, 3 people feel.
Yes.
5 people.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, at least half of you. Yeah, so what is satisfaction? What is the art of satisfaction? Where does it come from? First, let me read you the verse that I came upon yesterday that piqued my interest in the topic itself. So this comes in the pastime of Rukmini. And she's in a precarious situation because she wants to get married to Krishna. And her family is not in agreement, but most particularly her brother, Rukmi, is giving her a problem because Rukmi's against Krishna. And he wants her to marry Shishupal. So somehow or other he prevails, and the whole wedding is headed towards Rukmini marrying Shishupal. Everybody but Rukmi knows it's wrong. Even Rukmi knows it's wrong. But because he's so jealous of Krishna, he couldn't see his sister getting married to Krishna. So that's the scene. So Rukmini sends a letter to Krishna through a Brahmana. She picks the most trustworthy Brahmana who's confidential, and he travels the distance to deliver a message to Krishna. And in the message, Rukmini tells Krishna that I'm here, I want to marry you only. If I don't get to marry you, I'll just do austerities lifetime after lifetime till I give up one body after another, until the time comes when I get to marry you. That's how determined she was. She also gave directions to Krishna in her message of how he might carry it off. In that the wedding was already set up with Shushupal, but she advised that there was a particular time that Krishna could come in and grab her and take her away. This is actually one of the marriage ceremonies that was there in ancient culture, in which the bridegroom would just come in and sweep the bride off her feet on the horse and ride away in the middle of the night. And it was a bona fide kind of marriage for Kshatriyas. So Krishna is interacting with the Brahmana, and he appreciated the Brahmana. When the Brahmana came, Krishna got down from his seat, he offered obeisances to the Brahmana, and he washed his feet. Krishna washed the Brahmana's feet with his own lotus hands. He fed him, had him take rest, and then he wanted to hear the contents of the message. And in the course of that, he says, Santushto yadhivarteta brahmano yena kenachit adiyamana swadharmat sa yasyakila kamaduk. When a Brahmana is satisfied with whatever comes his way and does not fall away from his religious duties, those very religious principles become his desire cow, fulfilling all his wishes. Please repeat. When a Brahmana is satisfied, with whatever comes his way, and does not fall away from his religious duties, those very religious principles become his desire cow, fulfilling all his wishes. So, in the commentary that was given by Jiva Goswami, he writes, satisfaction and nothing else fulfills all desires. You want to hear that again? Okay, at least 5 people did. Yes. Okay. Satisfaction and nothing else fulfills all one's desires. Further commentary by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, if the Brahmana is unwavering in his dharma, that dharma yields all desires. So in thinking about this idea of satisfaction, it's mentioned in various places. I was considering how it is that one can actually practice satisfaction. And there are various places we can look at to aid us in practicing satisfaction. It's actually a practice. So we have a choice. I've noticed myself, when I thought of it as a discipline to be satisfied or not, when certain circumstances come upon me, I have a choice to say, I'll choose the discipline of satisfaction, or I'll become disturbed and complain. Have you ever noticed you had that choice in various circumstances? Well, if you haven't noticed before, you've come to the right place, because we talk about that, how it's a choice. Now, one of the reasons we know it's a choice is because throughout the Srimad Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna and various advanced devotees talk about ways to think about the world so that we can be better situated or satisfied as we're going through life. So one of the most important verses that's quoted again and again that came to my mind regarding satisfaction comes from Nardo Mooney in the 5th chapter of the 1st canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, when he says, Tasyaiva heto prayateta kovido nalabhyate yad brahmatam ruparyata Talavyate dukavaranyata sukham kalena sarvatra gabhiraram hasa. This is a very practical verse. Nardo Mooney says, don't try so hard for getting material advancement or warding off loss or distress in this world, because those are already fixed in your life. He says, on the other hand, you can try valiantly to advance yourself spiritually. And why do you think that, according to hearing this verse and the logic behind it, that I thought of that verse as one that could help in the discipline, or as I put it in the title, the art of satisfaction? I'd like to hear your suggestions. And may we please have a mic to pass around? Oh my God, it's on a... Hopefully we have one that's easily passed. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Okay, while you're getting it, we have Priya Kishori in the front row that's got some ideas already.
So in this verse it's mentioned that whatever one may need, or whatever is to happen to one in this material life, good or bad, is already fixed. And therefore, we must be satisfied with what is already predestined and endeavor for Krishna consciousness, which is the ultimate goal of us. One isn't even material purpose.
Okay, so you kind of restated, what the verse says, right? What's your experience with that? Is that what you do? Like, have you had realization of that?
When something happens beyond our control or that's out of our trajectory that we can influence, we should be satisfied and understand that forces higher than us and more powerful than us have determined the situation. And the control, and what we have control over is how we accept it, and we can move forward and endeavor in Krishna consciousness.
Okay, I brought this idea up to Navina Nirada today, and he said, well, what if, or maybe it was Vijay Prabhu said, well then why don't we just do nothing? Is that you who said that? Then why not just, if everything's, the loss and gain that I'm going to get materially comes automatically, why should I do anything? Anybody have an idea? Yes? What's that? You have to engage. Well, in the Gita, Krishna does say this. He says, Nahi kaschit shanamapi jatu tishyat karma krit karyate havashat karma sarva prakriti jayagunai. He says every living entity has to engage, as Mataji is telling us. Everyone has to engage. And he says you can't stop doing anything even for a moment. You can't stop being active. Even when you sleep, you're active. So activity is going on. And in the Gita, when Krishna said, maybe I won't do anything, I'll just not fight. And Krishna said, you'll be compelled to fight elsewhere because of your nature. Because you have a nature, the nature of a Kshatriya, and we're compelled by our nature to work in such a way. So Prabhupada comments that when Krishna was instructing Arjuna, he didn't tell him that now you sit down in the chariot and smoke ganja and I'll do the fighting. He told him, no, you fight. But he said, Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mama nusmarad yujacha mayarpita mano bhudir mami vaishasya samshayaha. And that is that while you're doing your work that you're obliged to do, at the same time think of me. And Prabhupada suggests in his purport that means that as you're doing your obligatory work, then you should continue chanting Hare Krishna. And we found today in the Bhagavad Gita an important instruction that Krishna gives for all of us. Should I say it out loud?
Yes!
Do you know what I'm thinking? No. You know? Okay. All right, so what I was thinking was, and what we discussed is a verse from the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, the 47th verse, in which Krishna says, Karmanye vidikaraste mapalishu kadachana makarma pala hetu bhur mate sangos karmani. And he says, you have a right to do your duty. Good so far? But you're not entitled to the fruits of the work. Don't be attached to the fruit of your work. And then he says, also, don't be attached to not doing your duty. How's that? He said, you have to work, but the trick is, don't be attached to the fruit of your work. But also don't be attached to not doing your duty. So, just to kind of give the idea why that's important, I'm obliged to work. In fact, Prabhupada gives this idea of obligatory work. And partly I'm obliged because I can't stop working. And I work according to my nature. And therefore I have a certain way which I have to work. So he suggests what's called disinterested, obligatory duties. DOD. What does DOD stand for? Disinterested, obligatory duties. DOD. You have to do your DODs. So how should you do them? Through what's called karma yoga. You work, you do your work, but at the same time, you understand that you're not your body. You work towards that conception. And part of that is by giving away the fruit of your work to Krishna. At least some of it. As that helps to connect you to Krishna. What's the first thing that happens when you give something that's dear to you? Well, first of all, what's the most dear thing to everybody in this world? Besides living? Huh? Well, according to Prahlad Maharaj. Money, yeah. He says the most dear thing. Everyone's working because they want to get money. So what's the first thing that happens when you give money to Krishna? Maybe you're thinking about it and you're going back and forth in your head. I'll get 500, no, 250, no, maybe. Back and forth, and maybe I won't give anything. After all, I have to get a root canal. Blah, blah, blah. Your mind's going on. And then finally, what happens, you give the money because somebody's next to you and they go, come on! Hand it over. And you give the donation. What's the first thing you notice? No, even before that. You're still alive. Because the bodily conception of life means jiva sajivanam. Somehow or other I have to survive. It's Darwinian survival here in this world. And I have to prepare myself. And even children from the time they're first born, the parents are saying, we have a college fund for you so you can go to school and get ready to work hard, little schnicky. You've got a hard road hoe. You got to get a career and work hard to maintain yourself. And it's a fact. It's a little harder nowadays anyway, because the world's a very cruel place. However, if you learn to give something away to Krishna, you start to notice that actually I'm not dependent on this. And not only that, I start to see how Krishna's maintaining me. And in the 13th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna describes different ways that people become aware of the supersoul within. And one of the ways is by working without fruit of desire. Isn't that amazing? The karma yoga. You work, but you give away some of the fruit of your work, and you start to develop a kind of satisfaction and an awareness of the supersoul within. Your connection to the supersoul, Buddhi yoga, begins to awaken by that act of sacrifice. And Krishna recommends this elsewhere in the Bhagavad Gita. Of course, in the 3rd chapter, he talks about yajna, and how at the beginning of creation, yajna was co-created or offered to every living entity as a means for being nourished, satisfied, and for living abundantly. Does he not? Do you think he does? Okay, who would like to say what the verse is? Anyone who said yes. Did we get that mic finally that we asked for? Okay, only people in the first row get to use the mic. Go ahead. You have a verse for us? Give her the mic. And if she doesn't have it, she can call a friend. a verse from the 3rd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita that says that the Lord gave yajna, or sacrifice, for the Supreme at the beginning of creation in order that living entities could live abundantly. What a revelation anyway, that by doing divine sacrifice that you could live in abundance. What do you think? Yes? On a scale of 1 to 10, how revelatory do you think that is? You have to work with me here now. 10? Who said 10? Thank you very much, Vijay. Vijay thinks it's a 10, and I think that he's demonstrating by his life. I mean, he just lives in a little postage stamp sized room, and the rest of his life is dedicated to doing some service all the time. And now look at him. Turn around, look right. Keep smiling. He's satisfied. He's doing sacrifice. Okay, where's the verse? Who's got it? Okay, Gandharvika Radha Devi Dasi. You'll have to say it aloud and then we'll all repeat. Okay, your daughter's your representative. She's got the microphone and she has it right there. What? Yes. Give the Sanskrit so we know that it's solid evidence, that you're not making anything up. Purovacha Prajapati Anina Prashavishyadvam Eshtavochvishtakhamaduk.
In the beginning of creation, the Lord of all creatures sent forth generations of men and demigods, along with sacrifices for Vishnu, and blessed them by saying, "Be thou happy by this yajna sacrifice, because its performance will bestow upon you everything desirable for living happily and achieving liberation."
Right? What'd you think? Want to hear it again?
Yes.
This is the secret to life. Nobody in Los Angeles knows this. They're driving around madly trying to find something. Prahlad Maharaj, in his prayers to Lord Nrsingadev, asked the question, where is it? Everyone says there's happiness in the material world, but I don't see anything. He says that it's a mirage. And just like a deer chases after the illusion of water in the desert and then drops dead, he said that's what everyone's doing here in Los Angeles. I think I'll find happiness in the future in some material arrangement. But actually, it's not really there. But we have a prescription right from Krishna that says how you get abundance and happiness in your life. And we're about to hear it the second time. We may have to hear it 3 times for it to sink in, right? You ready? Yes. Here she goes.
In the beginning of creation, the Lord of all creatures sent forth generations of men and demigods, along with sacrifices for Vishnu, and blessed them by saying, "Be thou happy by this yajna sacrifice, because its performance will bestow upon you everything desirable for living happily and achieving liberation."
Okay, would you like everything desirable and to be happy and then achieve liberation?
Yes.
But not very much, right? Yes. Okay, about a 4 out of 10. Well, here's the formula. One last time. Listen very carefully.
In the beginning of creation, the Lord of all creatures...
Slowly. Read it really slow.
In the beginning of creation, the Lord of all creatures sent forth generations of men and demigods, along with sacrifices for Vishnu, and blessed them by saying, "Be thou happy by this yajna sacrifice, because its performance will bestow upon you everything desirable for living happily and achieving liberation."
Case closed, right? Do you accept that?
Yes.
Okay, good. Now, what is the sacrifice in the age of Kali Yuga?
Sankirtan!
Sankirtan? And can you prove that with a Sanskrit verse? Please.
Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Nama Kevalam, Kavanasteva, Nasteva, Nasteva, Nasteva.
Okay, if you like this verse, say Hare Krishna. Tell us what it means.
It means that in this age there is no other process than chanting the holy name, chanting the holy name, chanting the holy name.
Now tell us about your personal life in any way you're comfortable with. You don't have to be too vulnerable if you want. But I just want to know, Do you feel happy and satisfied by performing this yajna, and why? And were you happy before?
I definitely feel happy performing this yoga because you get to see...
Hold that really close, we want to hear this.
I definitely feel happy because I get to see other people become happy in the process. And it's nice because you realize that the materialistic idea is that I have to arrange a comfortable, mentally concocted situation. But Krishna consciousness is the process of sacrificing that for inward happiness. And you experience that on a daily basis.
You do?
Yeah.
Well, how does it, like, give us an instance in your day when you said, hey, I really feel happy.
So when you're first going out, you have to, put together all the arrangements, and that can be a little bit exhausting. But then
Going out means?
On book distribution or sanctioning.
I see, okay.
All the organization, getting the table in the van, getting the books out to the side, setting up the canopy, setting up the book table. But once you have it set up, and people start coming up to the table, and sometimes even when you're setting up, a person comes up to you. And as soon as that first person gets a book, it's worth all the endeavor.
Now, what about in your personal life? Compared to what you were living before and when you met devotees, did you notice a change in your level of happiness and satisfaction?
Yeah, I found there was activity that was worth doing.
Like what?
Well, there's so many things. Whether it's
Well, just name one.
serving devotees prasadam.
Serving devotees prasadam. Okay. And you felt happy, satisfied?
Yeah, that was my first experience.
Okay. So thank you very much. He's been very forthcoming. Sharing means caring. So that there's a way in which we have a formula now. There's a clear statement from Krishna himself saying that the way to happiness and abundance in the world is to perform sacrifice. And this also leads from disinterest in the material world, ultimately. And it's something everyone can do, starting from the position that I'm in right now. It may be that although I like to perform devotional service, I'm still attached to the bodily conception of life to some degree or another. Is that possible?
Yes.
Okay. So one might start with this idea, and I promised a verse from the Bhagavad Gita also. Krishna says, Brahmanyadaya karamani sangham tyakva karotiya lipyatena sapapena padma patram ivambasa. And here he gives an analogy. He says that a devotee can live in this world the way a lotus flower lives in the water. And lotus grows out of the mud at the bottom of the pond, and then it stays in the water all the time. But if you observe the life of a lotus and how it's situated, you'll notice that it never touches the water, nor is it besmirched. Do you know what that means? Besmirched? You can look it up. It's not besmirched by the mud at the bottom of the pond. It's beautiful and radiant and untouched by the water or the mud. So Krishna says, Brahmanyadaya karmani sangham tyakva karotiha. If you live in this world and you become detached or you renounce, become disinterested in the fruit of your work, in other words, you're working for service, not for the fruit of reward and trying to accumulate a lot more so that you can try to situate yourself in such a way that you can enjoy more in the material world, but you're thinking how to expand your service. Sangham tyakva karotiya. Then here it comes. Lipyatena sapapena. What does besmirch mean? How many people know what besmirch means? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Only 5. Okay, go ahead. Uh-oh.
So besmirch is a verb.
You don't want to be besmirched. Go ahead.
It means damage the reputation of someone or something in the opinion of others.
Any other definitions?
And it also means make something dirty or discolored.
Make something dirty or discolored. This doesn't sound good, right? And where does it come from?
It says
Like German.
English.
English from Old English?
Yeah.
Besmirching. English. Okay, it's an English word. Besmirch. So it means to become dirty or discolored. So lipyatena sapapena means a similar thing. If you live like this lotus flower by not being attached to the result of your work and giving it away to some degree to Krishna in service, then you will not be touched by the sinful reaction which besmirches you. It colors you in this world. And this is called karmatmaka, or you get a colored consciousness that obliges you to stay in the material world and take material bodies, which is a very, very, very uncomfortable situation. So this is one of the secrets to success and to being satisfied, is to understand this formula, that true satisfaction comes from selfless service, and giving the fruit of one's work to Krishna is one of the ways to perform that kind of yajna or sacrifice. And also we heard that chanting the holy names, the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, is this verse we heard from Devavrata Prabhu was actually taught to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself from his spiritual master Srila Ishvara Puri. And that says that there's no other way in this age of Kali Yuga to attain success except by the chanting of the holy name. So this is a sacrifice that anybody can perform, is the continued chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. So now I want you to take a 2-minute break and stand up and talk to somebody next to you. Standing up is important because you've been sitting a long time. Stand up for 2 minutes, meet somebody next to you, and ask them one thing that they've taken so far from this discussion, so you can report it back to the rest of us. Are you okay? Are you ready? On your mark, get set, stand up. Try to talk to somebody you haven't met before. No, I'm okay, thank you. Yeah, the idea is not hugging your knees and stuff like that.
Oh, okay. Because we just had that concern if it's an offense to do it with one foot also.
It's okay if you do one?
Okay.
Is that what you were asking?
Yeah, it's an offense.
I don't know, that's a technicality. I'm not sure. Hare Krishna. Believe it or not, that's 2 minutes. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Good to see you. I remember you.
Yeah,
It's good to see you again. Yeah.
And it was Chinese.
Yeah. I remember that. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, was it talking to people that you'd never met before? Oh, good? Okay, good. So what did you learn? Let's hear back any kind of reflection that you got from the person that you talked to that they're taking away so far from the discussion. Yes, Vijay Prabhu. Selfless service gives satisfaction. Everybody say that 3 times.
Selfless service gives satisfaction. Selfless service gives satisfaction. Selfless service gives satisfaction.
And when you wake up tomorrow in the morning, first thing, selfless service gives satisfaction. You can even say it 2 more times. Selfless service gives satisfaction. Selfless service gives satisfaction. And we can prove it, right?
Yes.
I mean, we could prove it through the Shastra. There's so many more verses. Like, there's a verse from the first canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. We just chanted it this morning, right after the class. And it says, Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janayat Yashu Vairagyam Jnanam Cha Yadahaitukam. This means that when one engages in the direct process of devotional service, then as a concomitant, one naturally acquires knowledge and detachment. And these are required for this satisfaction. And you can't get them elsewhere. You don't get them at Rite Aid. If you ask for detachment, or if you ask them for knowledge, they won't be able to offer it to you. But if you perform any of the services to Krishna, beginning with hearing and chanting, you'll naturally get them. What else did you hear? Yes?
David Prabhu wrote down that you said that chanting is a yajna we can always perform.
Yes. Who can give a verse that confirms that this yajna is good for everyone? Because someone might say it's only good for some people. But who could say, okay, we got pundits in the front row here. Free Kishori. Who knows what she's talking about? Anybody? Okay, go ahead and explain it.
Those who are even of the Kirata, Kunanda, Anga, or...
She's naming, or Shukadeva is naming all kinds of people who live outside the Varnashram. They know nothing about spiritual life at all, and the practices that we're used to being associated with progressive spiritual life. And?
Shudyanti Tasmai Parvishnave Namaha, meaning that by worshipping Lord Vishnu, they can achieve perfection and they can be purified.
Okay. So, we could name more and more verses about the efficacy of the process of chanting Hare Krishna. And you could take it anywhere. There's another verse in the second canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Etan nirvidyamananam ichatam akato bhayam. Yoginam nripanirnitam hare namanu kirtanam. This verse certifies, or rather Shukadev says, that it's good for everybody in all circumstances. Whether you're an ordinary person or a yogi or a king, you can chant Hare Krishna and you can participate in this kind of sacrifice that's recommended in the Bhagavad Gita, and the result will be profound. A couple more reflections. Yes? A little stretch over there to Aprame.
Krishna said satisfaction is only gotten when you serve the Lord.
He said what?
Satisfaction is only gotten when you serve the Lord.
It's only gotten with?
When you serve the Lord.
When you serve for the Lord. Yes, that's a profound statement. And this is the alignment of yoga. It means to give one's attention towards the root of everything. And when you perform sacrifice, or as it's given in the Bhagavatam in a metaphor that if you water the root of the tree, then all the branches and leaves will be satisfied. So similarly, if you serve Krishna, then you'll naturally feel satisfied. And Krishna says, don't worry, there's a lot of other things that you might think you're missing if you do this. But he says you won't miss anything. What verse am I thinking about in the Bhagavad Gita? It's at the end of one of the chapters. That's a dead giveaway.
It's at the end of the 8th chapter.
Go ahead. Vedeshu yagyeshu tapasu chaiva Naneshu yat punya palam pratishtam Adyeti tat sarvamidam vaditva Yogi param stanu upaiti chajam. And what is Krishna saying?
Simply that the results derived from studying the Vedas, from sacrifice, from austerity, from giving in charity, there's nothing lost.
You won't miss any of those things. Studying the Vedas, the Veda Kashit, but giving charity, all kinds of, he gives a long list of the various activities that people perform to try to do pious works to get ahead in the world and so forth. He said you won't miss anything if you engage in sacrifice to Krishna. So you can put your full concentration into devotional service. Okay, good. I'll take a couple more. Yes, 1, 2.
Amir Mataji had shared that.
Closer.
Amir Mataji had shared that nothing, like everything, every situation is beyond our control, and everything is predetermined. So we just have to live with it and accept it. So that's what she took away from this class.
Okay, I'll just say that, maybe a slight modification, that not everything is beyond our control. Krishna talks about this in the 18th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, where he says there's 5 factors to every action. And one of them is our personal endeavor. So the idea that things are predestined doesn't mean that we simply give up. And this is, it's slightly related to the topic that has become prominent nowadays in science, epigenetics. Anybody familiar? Yes? Well, this says that we come with a certain set of DNA combinations, and some of them may make us predisposed to certain kinds of diseases. You've heard of that, right? Like some people are predisposed for things, well, I won't mention them because it's depressing. The various kinds of things that one might be predisposed towards. But it comes in one's genetics, genetic makeup. However, science now shows that it doesn't necessarily mean that those things will manifest in your life, because there are other factors that affect it. For instance, your lifestyle. So if you change your diet and the kind of air you breathe, the kind of stress you're under, and things like that, there's a way in which you may not, the genetic makeup may not fully manifest because you've adjusted to it. So there is a way in which there are many things that are predestined in our life, but if we make certain adjustments, then we may not take the full brunt of those things. They may not be fully manifest. Especially those who take to the process of devotional service, because Krishna says, or Brahma says, Yas Twindra Gopamata Vendra Maho Sakarma, Vandana Rupa Palabhajanam Atanoti, Karmani Nirdahati Kintu Chapakti Bhajam, Govindamari Purusham Tamaham Vajami. What does that mean? Prabhu? Front row. Go ahead.
From Indra down to emptiness and sick, everything is controlled and owned by the Lord.
From Indra down to the Indragopa germ, got that part? That means like the king of heaven down to the tiniest little insect. Everyone's undergoing the result of their previous karma, except those who are engaged in bhakti. Karmani nirdahati. Their karma is being taken away, diminished, because they're engaging in bhakti. So that can be changed through the process of practicing devotional service to Krishna. Karma is not eternal. It can cease at some point. Do we have one more? Yes.
I had a question regarding the previous statement about satisfaction only comes when you serve Krishna. Does that mean we only serve Krishna?
Does that mean you should only serve Krishna? Yeah, that's fine. There's full permission given everywhere in the Shastra. Tasmad ekena manasa bhagavan satvatambati shotavya kirtitavyascha gyeya pujascha nityada. The conclusion in the Bhagavatam, first canto, is that because devotional service is so potent, because it doesn't change the nature of your life, it doesn't mean renouncing the work you're doing already, but simply adopting the principles of devotional service, one should take to the direct practices of devotional service. You're given full permission to do that. There's a way in which we do have to perform disinterested, obligatory duties, because those things go on. At the same time, we should add devotional service to our life. But Krishna says, Sarva dharman parityaja mamekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papibhyo mokshayishami ascha. You have full permission to give your full attention to serving Krishna. Permission is given.
About the devotees, other people in general.
For them, we mentioned the process of karma yoga. Means people should be encouraged to work and dedicate some of the fruit of their work to the Supreme. And that way, gradually, they'll become purified and come to a clearer understanding they're not their body. And then, naturally, they'll be able to take more and more to the process of direct devotional service. It's a gradual, step-by-step process. Does that help? We have 4 minutes left, surprisingly. Surprised me. And we're going to have just a short kirtan to finish. Could you move the mic over, please? Last sadhusanga. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Thank you very much. We make a prayer to Srila Prabhupada, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that we may perform selfless service and therefore be directly connected to the process given by the great acharyas and by Krishna himself in the Bhagavad Gita. And we may spread it to everybody in Los Angeles and every other city around the world. Everyone who agrees with these ideas, please say Hare Krishna.
Marman, Natari Marman, Natari Marman, Natari Marman, hey, Natari Marman, Natari Marman, Natari Marman, Natari Marman.